Good evening and thanks for joining us. We begin with breaking news about a tense afternoon in Nova Scotia. RCMP scrambled to investigate new reports of shots fired. There were reports of two separate incidents in two neighborhoods in the Halifax area. The RCMP responded. People were obviously on edge. An emergency alert was issued advising residents to shelter in place and refrain from travel until being advised otherwise. Police said they launched an extensive search of the areas and later did give the all clear. But all of this happened just before a virtual vigil began for the 22 people murdered by a gunman on the weekend. Ross Lord is with me from Halifax. Ross, I can't imagine the tension there and then the relief. What are police saying?
Well, at first, a warning went out to everyone in Nova Scotia saying stay inside after a report of shots fired in the Halifax suburb of Hammonds Plains. There were several other reports of shots fired, and the Mounties say in the end they were all unfounded. They were quick to sound the alarm this time after criticism they should have initiated an emergency alert last weekend that could have saved lives.
All right, thanks, Ross. We will come back to you in just a moment. There is already so much grief in Nova Scotia, and today people paid tribute to those who were murdered on the weekend. 22 innocent lives were taken in that gruesome rampage. Some of the victims were targeted, others were shot at random, and they are being remembered in a virtual vigil. That's Nova Scotia fiddler Natalie McMaster and a pianist playing in memory of Herbie McLeod, alongside a video of 17-year-old Emily Tuck in the middle there. She loved to play the violin. That video was recorded before she was killed. She was the youngest victim.
Sometimes the darkness can be brighter than sunshine.
All kinds of Nova Scotians took part, including country star George Canyon. He said, like others, he's devastated by the events of last weekend and is thinking of the families of the victims.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Torrens, and I've lived in Colchester County for 12 years. I'm a proud member of this community. As you can imagine, over the last several days, people here have been reeling, trying to make sense of something that just doesn't make sense.
There are still so many unanswered questions about what happened last weekend. Today, the RCMP did fill in some of the blanks. Ross takes us through that.
The Mounties repeat reporting by Global News that the rampage started after the gunman assaulted his girlfriend. She escaped and hid in the woods, emerging hours later with valuable information for police. In the meantime, he killed 13 people at or near Portapique Beach Road. The RCMP timeline shows at 9:35 Sunday morning, he was 60 kilometers away, killing 2 men and 1 woman and burning down a house in Wentworth. After knocking on a door in Glenholm, no one answered. The killer drove his fake police vehicle to another part of Wentworth.
Along the way, he encountered a woman who was out walking, and he shot the woman at the roadside.
He continued toward Debert.
A witness described that the suspect had pulled over one of the vehicles and had shot one of the drivers. He continued driving down that same road, Highway 4, and he encountered a second vehicle, and he shot and killed that victim at that location.
The gunman traveled south on Highway 102 towards Halifax, shooting Constable Chad Morrison, who mistook the gunman's vehicle for Constable Heidi Stevenson's. Morrison survived. Then came a head-on collision with Stevenson's vehicle.
Both vehicles collided head-on. Constable Stevenson engaged the gunman. The gunman took Constable Stevenson's life.
After fatally shooting a passerby and stealing a silver SUV, he stopped at the home of a woman, killed her, removed his police clothing, transferred his weapons to the victim's Mazda 3, then drove to the Irving Big Stop in Enfield.
While he's at the gas pumps, one of our tactical resources came to the gas station to refuel their vehicle. When the officer exited the vehicle, there was an encounter, and the gunman was shot and killed by police.
And Donna, we're learning more about the weapons the shooter used. Investigators say he had a handgun and he had long guns. They were able to trace one of those guns back to Canada. The remaining weapons they recovered are believed to have been obtained in the United States, and they're not saying anything about that cross-border investigation at this time.
Lots more to come on that. Ross, what do we know about why the RCMP did not initiate an emergency alert on the weekend, telling people a gunman was on the loose?
Well, we've suspected this all week as information's been dribbling out, but essentially they confirmed today that they thought they had the gunman contained in Portapic. A man told the Mounties he'd been shot by a man driving a car with police markings, that the car was headed towards Portapic Beach, and that there was only one way in and one way out.
All right, Ross Lord in Halifax, thank you.
There's so much information surrounding coronavirus out there now. We know you have questions. Email your questions at globalnews.ca. Tune in to Global National or go to globalnews.ca/coronavirus now to find the answers.